All right, so today's webinar will be recorded. We record webinars for three reasons. Firstly, for internal training purposes. Secondly, to provide to our funders as part of our commitments to them. Thirdly, so that trainees like yourselves can watch these sessions in the future in order to support their careers and development where they've been unable to attend a live session. We store these videos on our secure internal Teams platform and as private YouTube videos which cannot be accessed without our permission. We will store these videos for a maximum of 5 years. You will have the right to choose to leave the session at any stage if you do not wish to be recorded. If you do choose to leave, we will attempt to hold another unrecorded webinar to accommodate you. If you've spoken during the session and wish that segment of the recording to be deleted, we will do so. Neither Microsoft Teams or Springboard store any information about you, including your IP address. For further information, please visit the news article Understanding Webinars.
Good man, Joel. Thanks very much. That's great. Okay, guys, so what is the last workshop that we're going to have a look at? So it's applying for work and just generally going to give you guys some tips on CVs, on interview skills. It's difficult to do it in like loads and loads of detail because, yeah, we could easily fill an hour or maybe 2 hours with just CVs or an hour or just 2 hours with interview tips. So we're just going to give you some kind of tips that we think that you'll find useful that you can put into action straight away. And then, of course, as we keep saying, if you want help from us at Springboard anyway, you just need to sign up for the Career Scope and we'll be able to help you with a lot of that stuff anyway. So what we're going to look at specifically in the workshop now, we're going to look at, why get a job? So if you're starting to think about a part-time job or a full-time job or a career, why? We'll have a look at some tips and hints around what we think makes a good CV and cover letter. We'll have a think about communicating with an employer. So once you send off your CV, once they like your CV, how are they going to contact you? How does that work? What do you expect when all of that starts to happen? We'll have a look at interview skills, and then right at the end we will give you guys a slide where you can take a note of some questions to practice, and then you can take that away and do a little bit of interview practice if that's something that you want to do. All right. So firstly, I'll ask you guys to use the chatter as always. Tell me why do you think you should look for a job as soon as you can? So as soon as you kind of you're old enough, and as soon as you feel that your balance in life is right. Why do you think that you should look for a job? So let me know what you think on the chatter, and then Jordan will read them out for me. Jordan, what about you? Why did you start looking for a job when you were 16, 17, 18?
For experience, to find out what I enjoyed and what I wanted to do going forward.
Yeah.
The first one we've had come in the chat, Tony, is money.
Money, brilliant. Yeah, I love them both, and I agree with them both. So I'll run through my ones, and Jordan, you can let me know if anything else comes through. But yeah, go for it.
You want them now?
Yeah, please, let's go for it. Yeah.
So we've got to get experience as soon as possible.
Yep.
And then to keep occupied.
Yep.
Someone else is typing at the moment. To learn something.
To learn something, yeah. So like all really good, valid reasons, and I'm probably going to cover most of them anyway. So I agree with you guys. So the first one that I've put up here is, for me, massively, it was about building confidence. I didn't necessarily even know that when I kind of signed up for my first job, but as I said to you guys earlier, definitely it transformed my life skills and my confidence. So I think that alone is a great reason to get a part-time job, a summer job, a full-time job. I think it really, really helps your confidence. What else I would say is, yeah, the life skills. So the confidence and the life skills go a little bit hand in hand. So when I was 16 and shy, I had no idea how to deal with complaints or different types of people. And when I started working in hospitality in a hotel, I kind of got those skills. I became more organized. I became more responsible. I've taken a lot more pride in myself maybe as well. So kind of lots of things that were really cool for me. Jordan, you said this one as well. I think that's a really, really valid point for young people. I would always encourage young people to try different things. And I think the sooner you get working, the sooner you start to work out, what you really enjoy, what you don't enjoy. Sometimes we have a theory of something that we think that we might really enjoy, but actually when you start doing it, you think, this isn't what I thought it was. I actually don't really enjoy that this so much. So I think it's a great way when you're younger to try different things over the summer, as you're doing part-time jobs. even for the first couple of years, you know, you might do something for a year or a couple of years. So just generally trying different things to find out what you really love. And as you go through your career as well, that can change. I loved working in HR when I did, and I did it for the best part of 10 years. But I got to a point in my life where I wanted to do something different. So that love kind of was still there a little bit, but I wanted to do something different. And now I'm working in a charity for hospitality. So, you know, that's something I love as well. So it's kind of like an evolving thing, but it's really, yeah, really a good way of seeing what you like. Great for your CV as well. That can be your CV to get other jobs. That can be your CV to apply for colleges or universities. So it's really, really good for your CV as well.
We just had in the chat, and all jobs want experience, so you need to get some.
Yeah.
Which is a good point, but also going off of what we heard from Citizen M, you know, they weren't so much looking for experience, they were looking for the right personality, the right people person. And you know, so experience is good, but don't be focused on that if you're looking for your first job, because there's a lot of places that will think, okay, we can train all these other skills as long as you've got the right person.
Definitely, I agree, Jordan. It can be, if you're sitting there and you're applying for things and it's saying experience, it can be a bit daunting. But you find in general, I think, especially with hospitality, that the companies are a little bit kinder, like Citizen M. And let's face it, like every single one of us, like teachers, me, Jordan, older people on this call, like we all started with no experience at some point. And it'll be the same for you guys as well. So yeah, if you're worried about that, then don't be, because I'm sure that's yeah, not going to be held against you, and you'll be able to get going and grow your career and get a job as well. So, but great point. Also, I would say money. So we said about money before. I totally agree. Firstly, from a very positive point of view, when you start getting paid, you can start looking after your loved ones, but also you can look after yourself as well. And I always remember when I started working, even though I wasn't earning a lot of money, this is probably even more so when I moved to London when I was 26, and I had a fairly sort of junior job, and I was only just getting by. You know, I was scraping by paying my rent because it's expensive in London, traveling to work, that type of thing. But I always remember every time I got paid at the end of the month, I always made sure I treated myself, because I knew that, you know, I put my heart and soul into my job, and earning, even if it wasn't a lot of money, just that bit of money. So I always made sure that I treated myself. And but yeah, so treat yourself, treat others. I've got some examples here. It could be that you want to, you know, go for a Nando's because that's what you love. In my case, I'm obsessive about sport, so I would be buying football jerseys when I was 16 or 17. Sometimes treating my mum as well, or it could be that you're into gaming, stuff like that as well. But it's a real thing of satisfaction to work hard and get paid for it as well. So yeah, absolutely, it's definitely about the money as well. So that's another reason to get working as soon as you can. So now, if you kind of made the commitment that you want to get into a job, there's two stages, and you need to do both stages in order to get your first job, or any job. The first stage is to have a strong CV. So if you don't have a strong CV that is kind of relevant for the jobs that you're going for, then it's very difficult to get an interview. But if you do have a good CV, then you're going to get interviews. And then, of course, once your CV is working and you're getting interviews, the second part that you need to get good at is you need to get good at interviewing itself. So it could be that you are getting invited to loads of interviews but not getting jobs. Then you know, okay, my CV is working, but what I need to work on is my interview skills. So these are the two important parts. Sounds really obvious, but when you break it down like that, yeah, it really kind of works out. And yeah, it's a good kind of rule to follow. So, question for you guys, and for you as well, Jordan. How long do you think a company would typically look at your CV for? So do you think it's A, 10 minutes, B, 6 seconds, C, 1 minute, or D, 5 minutes? And there was some research done on this a couple of years ago. So let me know what you think. What would you say, Jordan?
Wow, the options are not very long, are they? 5 minutes is not long either.
No.
But we've got some coming in saying C, 1 minute,
Cool.
D, 5 minutes.
Cool. D, 5 minutes.
Gemma says, hope it's more than 6 seconds.
Oh, but yeah, Gemma, absolutely right with that. So the actual answer here, guys, is, believe it or not, on average, a company spends only 6 seconds reviewing a CV. So this was some research done a couple of years ago. So I guess the point here was, remember to take the time to put together a good CV. And really what you want is a sort of quick, catchy CV with a couple of bits, and we'll give you some tips on how to go about that. Now, if I look at that and I think 6 seconds, that is not long at all. When I worked in HR and I did lots of recruitment, I personally would say it's closer to a minute, but it's still not a lot of time. So again, what you want to try and do is have some catchy stuff on your CV so it hooks an employer, and then they want to get you in for an interview after that. So what does curriculum vitae mean? So what does it stand for? So CV, it literally means, guys, it's a Latin term. It literally means the story of your life. And if you take that a bit further, it's basically the story of your professional life. So that's what CV stands for. What's it for? It's your own personal marketing tool. It helps you to sell your skills, your strengths, your qualifications to an employer. It helps you to set the agenda for a job interview. So what we mean by that is that if employers they've got your CV, they're going to ask you questions based on your CV. So in a way, you can kind of set down what you want to talk about by putting down the things that maybe you're strong or good at. So you know the employer is going to see that and talk to you about that. So that's quite important as well. It's all about you. It's an opportunity to show an employer why you're the ideal candidate for the job. It's an outline of your education and experience. Its purpose really is only to get you an interview. We want it to stand out from the crowd. Remember, if you've got that 6 seconds or you've got that minute, you want to stand out from the crowd. Now, you might be sitting there, a lot of you guys thinking, okay, I don't have much experience. There's lots of things that you'll have done at school. You might be in part of team activities like sports. You might be into art. There's lots of things that we can help you at Springboard bring out on your CV to make it as good as possible. And remember as well, if you're a young person applying for a job, an employer will know that. So they're not expecting to see lots of experience and stuff like that. Everybody's got potential. Everyone has more skills than they think they do, and they really sit down and think about it. And I genuinely believe that everyone can write a good CV. Probably not enough people do write a good CV, and that's where, for example, where we can give you guys a little bit of an edge as well. So on a CV, I personally like 7 sections on a CV. So one of those sections is personal details. What do you guys think are the other 6 sections that I would recommend putting on a CV? Let me know what you think on the chatter.
Wait and see something coming in from anyone.
Cool.
So we're looking for 7 more, 6 more.
6 more, Jordan. Yeah. And thinking of your CV, how many sections have you got? If you can remember it well enough.
I'd say I've got, yeah, about 7.
About 7 sections.
So education we've got coming in.
Yeah, education. So that's going to be that's going to be a big section for you guys, because most of you guys are still doing education. So at this stage of your life, you might actually have more in education than you do in employment. But as you get a bit older, certainly when you get to my age, you're going to have a lot more in your employment section and probably very little in your education. So now I'm almost 40. I wouldn't even put down that I've done GCSEs, because I've done kind of other things since then.
And we've got work experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that can be unpaid work experience. That can be volunteering, but that can also be paid experience.
Skills.
Skills. Yeah, absolutely. Key skills would be one of the sections I would have on there.
And hobbies.
Hobbies and interests. Yeah. Not everyone puts hobbies and interests, but I really like it. I'm somebody who's interviewed a lot of people, and it's one of the bits that I focus on. When I see it, I will go there and I will start to talk to people about their hobbies and interests. I think it's a great way to build rapport with people, especially if you have common interests. So whenever I see football on there, I'll always have a wee chat about football.
Yeah, Leighton Academy's got all the answers here. So we've got languages.
Languages are great as well. So with languages, you can put them in different sections. So let me bring up the sections for you guys, and then we can see what we'll come back to you in a second, Jordan, for the rest of the stuff. But yeah, I would put the personal details. So that's your name, your contact details, your email, stuff like that. So that's really important. Your personal profile. So that's, for example, where you could put languages. Your personal profile is a bit about, your strengths and weaknesses. It's also a good place to put exactly what you're looking for. So it might be, I'm looking for a summer job. I'm looking for a part-time job to do in tandem with my studies. So that's where you put that information. Your employment history would normally go after that. If you are still in education and you don't have much employment history, then you would put your education history first. But as you get older, it's probably going to be personal details, personal profile, employment history, your education history, your key skills, your hobbies and interests, and then a little bit at the end about having references available upon request if an employer wants to use them. Anything else come through in the chatter, Jordan? Or did we pretty much cover it there?
The last one we got was any awards.
Yeah, awards are a good one. So awards you could put in several places. You could put it in hobbies and interests. You could put it in key skills. If it's an award to do with something that you did in education, you could put it in there. If it's something to do in your employment, for example, you want Employee of the Month, something like that, you could put it in there as well. So yeah, awards are really good as well. Okay.
Nothing else.
And this is oh, great. Thanks, Jordan. This is top line stuff as well, guys. As I said, we could go into a lot more detail about what you put into each section, but I'm mindful that we don't have a huge amount of time, but just wanted to give you guys a couple of tips. All right, probably a biggie for me, guys, is, and it's the same with the interview as well, depending upon the type of job that you want to go for, you have to have a think about what kind of words, because you're trying to catch an employer with your CV. So they're spending a minute on your CV. So if you're going for a customer service job, what type of words do you think that you need to put down on your CV to hook an employer? So we're going to go through some examples here. And I think actually the first one is customer service. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you guys loved Citizen M today, or you love Nando's and you want to go and work at Citizen M, you want to go and work at Nando's, you want to do something in customer service. What kind of words do you think that you would put on your CV and your personal profile, or maybe in your skills, in order to try and hook that employer to say, right, we'd love to get that person in for an interview? So let me know what you think about that in the chatter. What would be a word that you would use, Jordan, on your CV if you were trying to get a customer service job?
People person.
Great, love that. You definitely are as well, 100%.
Yeah, we've got a couple of things come in. Polite.
Yeah, love it.
Good listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's typing, just a second. Positive.
Positive, yeah. And the great thing about these words is they're all relevant, but none of them really, it's not about experience, it's just about having those personal qualities.
Empathetic, maybe another one.
Oh, great word. Love that. Empathy. Yeah, great stuff, guys. Look, there's loads, but to give you some examples, and you've got some great examples that you've told me there anyway, I'd be looking at words like friendly, excellent communication, complaint handling if you've done it before, calm under pressure, organised, bubbly, outgoing, team player, empathy, like we said, some great examples. Now, to change it slightly, if you are thinking, right, you know what, actually, I'm more of a back of house person. I'd love to work in the kitchen because I'm really passionate about food. I love watching the Great Bake Off and MasterChef and all that kind of stuff. What kind of words do you think you would use if you were trying to, let's just say you have no experience, but you were trying to hook an employer to give you an opportunity as a chef or doing an apprenticeship in the kitchen? What kind of words do you think you would use? And I'll come to you first as well, Jordan. Again, if you think about, okay, you fancy a career change and you want to go and be a chef, what kind of words would you be put, or what kind of word would you put on your CV?
Well, I'm not a very good cook, but I would probably say creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you remember that from the first session as well. But yeah, completely.
Yeah, I've got quick learner.
Yep. And that's great, especially if you don't have experience. You can put down that you're a quick learner, so that's a way of getting around that.
Good at working under pressure.
Love it.
In sort of like a fast-paced environment as well, I imagine a kitchen would be like.
Yeah, completely.
Good at working in a team.
Yeah, team player. So some of the words you might use for like different things. Some might be very specific to the type of role that you're going for. But yeah, great stuff, guys. So you get the idea. So again, some examples here. So creative, as Jordan said, hands-on, practical, team player, really important in the kitchen. So you might be front of house or back of house, but you still need to be a team player. Calm under pressure, organized, flexible, quick learner, passionate about food, a foodie, tidy, neat. So some of the type of words that you might use for the kitchen. And I think you guys get what we're kind of saying to you here now. But as a very last example, if you wanted to get yourself a job in finance and you didn't have the experience, what kind of words would you use? What kind of words do you think somebody looking to give somebody an opportunity in finance, what would they be looking to see?
Maybe a head for numbers.
Yeah, numeric, head for numbers. Love numbers.
Accurate coming in on the chat.
Awesome. Accurate, yes, great word.
Attention to detail.
Yeah, good attention to detail. I'd probably use that for the kitchen as well.
Yeah, nothing else coming in on the chat for that one.
You guys get the idea. So a couple of other things I got here. So we said numeric, but we got methodical, analytical, organized, maybe you're good at Excel. I wish I was better at Excel. Great attention to detail, neat, tidy. So really, yeah. So what we're saying to you guys is one of the things that you always want to do is, depending upon the type of job that you're going for, you want to use relatable words that are going to hook an employer, and it will be different things for different jobs. So if you are looking to get a summer job in customer service, you might have a certain CV for that. But if actually long term you want to work in business and finance, then maybe maybe your CV will start to change slightly with the type of words that you're using. So one for you to have a wee think about. In terms of covering letter, it's really good to have a good cover letter that you will need to change depending upon the type of job you're going for or the type of company that you want to work for. But it's really important to have a good cover letter. Not every company will ask for a cover letter, but often what you'll have to do is email a company with your CV. So then the email itself becomes the cover letter. So it's really important to have a good one. It highlights information on your CV. You want to try to keep it short and to the point. Remember, employers won't spend a huge amount of time, so you want to hook them quickly. Address it to the appropriate person if you know how it is. Be positive. Check the grammar and spelling. That's exactly the same with the CV as well. And what we would say is always have one paragraph on the experience, skills and passion that you can bring to the job. If you don't have experience, which might be very likely for a lot of you guys, just concentrate on the skills and passion that you can bring to the customer service job or the ambassador job that you want to do at Citizen M. And I would say as well, always have one paragraph on why you want to work for that company. So a company can see specifically, okay, you're not just sending the same email or the same cover letter to everyone, but actually that you really want to work for the company. So if I was to say to you guys, I know not everyone was on the last session, but hopefully some of you guys were. If I was to say to everyone, like, why would you want to work for Citizen M? What kind of words would you use? What would you use, Jordan? What would be the first word that comes to your head?
Passion comes to the first word that comes to my head.
So you want to work for Citizen M because you're passionate? Yeah, absolutely. I would, and I would.
New.
So modern, yeah, I love it as well. Trendy, I think Domi talked about sustainability. She talked about the sort of mobile employees, the mobile customers, the arty. I have a real passion for hospitality and art, so it's a perfect kind of marriage in that sense. So yeah, some good examples there.
Definitely the travel opportunities look like they're very good with Citizen M anyway, with all the new hotels.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a reason you want to join Citizen M. I'd love to work for Citizen M because I really want to travel and have a career in hospitality. So yeah, all of these reasons. And if Domi was sitting reading your cover letter and she saw that, she'd be like, you know what, this person is a perfect match for Citizen M. Okay, so you've got a good CV. You've sent that off. You sent off your cover letter. So what happens next? So once you've kind of sent off your CV, and if an employer is interested in you, how do you think an employer will contact you?
They're probably going to phone me.
Going to phone you? Yeah. Any other ways?
Anything else on the chat? Any answers? Might get an email back.
Might get an email back, yeah. So let me put down some examples here. So they might phone you. So the first thing I would say is when you start applying for jobs, just make sure whenever you answer the telephone, it could be the employer, it could be Citizen M, it could be it could be Celtic Manor if you're applying for them. Just make sure that you answer it nice and politely. So always be super polite when you answer the phone, especially if you don't know who it is that's calling. Also as well, what you want to do is set up a voicemail, particularly for the Londoners, because you might be jumping on and off the tube. So Dominica from Citizen M, she might call you and might go straight to voicemail, and her first impression of you, apart from your CV, is going to be the voicemail. So you want to leave a nice kind of polite voicemail, because it could be that somebody sees your CV and they really want to get you in for an interview, but if they call you and you don't answer it politely, or if it goes to voicemail and it's not a nice voicemail, they might decide, you know what, actually, maybe I won't get that person in for an interview after all. So I call this stage the pre-interview interview. So they like you, but you still haven't secured the kind of proper interview yet, and that starts with this kind of communication here. So the telephone and voicemail is really important. Email as well, and keep an eye on emails, because an employer might call you, but they might email you. So you want to be checking your email, I would say, twice a day. You want to try and go back to an employer pretty quickly to say, I'm so happy that you've contacted me. I would love to come in for an interview, and keep it really polite and really professional. Might get a text. It's maybe more rare, but again, you just want to follow that back quite quickly. And yeah, as I said, I call this stage the pre-interview stage, and this was really important to me. In fact, let me be honest with you guys, I've actually started doing some interviewing recently at Springboard as well, and I still find this stage really important. This whole stage of kind of, as you're bringing people in for first and second interviews, you're kind of corresponding with them and seeing how quick they are to come back to you, seeing how polite they are. This stuff for me always says a lot about people, so I think this section is hugely important. So Jordan, you did this section very well when we were interviewing recently. So yeah, so there you go. So the pre-interview interview. All right. So there you go. So you've nailed the CV, you've nailed the pre-interview interview. So now they're bringing you in for an interview. So that's great news. What is an interview? Well, it's a conversation with a purpose. It's an opportunity, a little bit like your CV, to discuss your qualifications, to assess your experience, ability, and skills. And remember, if you don't have the experience, talk about your skills, talk about the passion, talk about your personality, because really, especially in our industry in hospitality, they want to see your passion, they want to see your personality. It's all about that, and you want to show your suitability for the role as well. The purpose of an interview is to let the interviewer see if you meet the requirements for the job, your personal qualities, how well you express yourself, your motivation and enthusiasm. Finally, to allow you to convince the employer that you're the right person for the job, communicate information about yourself, ask questions about the job and organisation. And a biggie for me here as well is I always say that the interview is, of course, it's about the employer deciding whether you're the right person for them, but it's also about you sitting back and getting a feel for the employer when you have an interview with them. Have they looked after you? Have they been professional? When they emailed you, when they called you, how did all of that go? What's your feeling? Because I think it's really important as well that you also get a good feel. And Jordan, if I ask you, because I know you're relatively new to Springboard, but hopefully when you went through the interview process with us, as you were going through it, you thought, you know what, I would love that job because they seem like good guys and professional and the kind of place that I would like to work.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I've sort of vibed off of the people I was in contact with because I felt that they were as passionate as I was about getting involved in this side of hospitality as well.
Yeah, great. So guys, remember that as well. It's also about you deciding, especially as you grow your career and maybe you've got different options and you've got different jobs on the table, or maybe you're in a job where you're happy, but you think it's time to sort of move on. It's good to be a little bit picky sometimes and make sure that when you're doing these interviews and you're going into environments that, it's right for you as well. Okay, so what type of interviews do you think that we can have? So when I say interviews, what type of interviews do you think that we can do in this day and age? Let me know what you think on the chatter.
Wait, for some chat. So do you mean one like face to face or virtual?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would probably be the two main ones.
Yeah, so we've got online come in there.
Yeah.
And then we've got group interview.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Someone else is typing at the moment.
Yeah, so I'll just go through the first couple. So face to face is the traditional way. I think it's going to be the way going forward as well when we come out of the pandemic. Normally that's 1-to-1. Sometimes it can be with a panel or it can be with 1 to 2 people. If you're going for entry level roles or your first kind of jobs, it's normally 1-to-1 or 1 to 2 people. But as you get more senior, you might start doing things in front of panels or you might have to present, and that can be a bit more scary. But don't worry too much because by that stage in your career, you'll be able to deal with that as well. You might have a telephone interview. Now, that might be because an employer emails you to say and organises a telephone interview, or they might just call you directly. So they might not tell you it's an interview, but they might call you and say, look, thanks for your application for Citizen M. Do you mind if we just have a quick chat and I ask you a few questions? So sometimes, you just have to kind of be ready for that. That can always happen. So when you're applying for jobs, be ready to react to that sort of situation. I think you guys said about the group assessment as well. So if I think of Nando's, what they normally do is they'll bring a group of people into one of their restaurants. They will talk about Nando's. They will organise some group activities where they see how you get on in a group scenario, and then they'll take everyone away for individual 1-to-1 interviews. So a little bit of a combination of both. Work trial, so you might often be asked to come in for a work trial, and again, if you don't have the experience, they're not necessarily, let's just say you've been invited to come in to do a work trial as a waiter. It's not that they're necessarily looking for experience, but what they'll be looking to see is that you're a quick learner, you've got a good attitude, that you're proactive, and so work trials can be quite popular as well. Competency-based questions, so that's very common during an interview, and we'll come back to that in a little bit of time and how you can deal with that. Virtual interviews, so that's the biggie from the sort of pandemic times. Before the pandemic, sometimes we would do Skype interviews and stuff like that, particularly if somebody was based abroad. But now I do think that virtual interviews are here to stay. I think what a lot of companies will do to cut down time is they'll do virtual interviews to begin with, and if they like somebody, they'll then invite them in for second interviews in person. So I think that's the way forward. So I think virtual interviews are here to stay. Anything else come through on the chatter, Jordan?
No, but I think something maybe else to add to the list, given the times, is quite a lot of companies in between the face-to-face or virtual interview stage. I've had the experience a lot also where they get you to do like an online assessment of your skills. before they do the interview selection as well is something else I've noticed.
Yeah, like personality tests and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That can be also when you get more senior as well. They really want to see your personality and your leadership style. So that's a great point as well. So what's an interviewer checking for? You know, whichever type of interview you have, whether it's a trial shift or whether it's a virtual interview, well, we believe that they're checking for three things. So can you do the job? Will you do the job? And also, will you fit in with the team as well? So what do you think is the most important part of the interview, guys? So if we were to say what's the most important part, what do you think?
So I'll wait for some answers. I'm going to say it's all very important.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's all super important. There's
First
probably
impressions is what's first come through on the chat there.
first impressions. Yeah, cool. You guys are all over it. It's good that you know that stuff, but it's so true. Maybe it sounds obvious, but yeah, it's the critical first 3 minutes, as we say. Now, normally it's if you have a bad first 3 minutes, it's difficult to overcome that. I have had interviews where maybe somebody's been late or hasn't made a good first impression, and I have offered them the job. But in my time interviewing, and I've interviewed a lot of people, probably very few people, if they haven't done that first 3 minutes well, have got the job. So it's really, really important that you try and get that right. So what's the first 3 minutes all about? Well, certainly for me, it's about how you look. So making sure that you look well for the environment, and we'll come back to kind of how you should dress for an interview, depending upon what environment you're going into in a little bit. Posture, so good kind of positive body language is really, really important. Speech, so yeah, how you're kind of not necessarily the words that you're saying, but again, that kind of enthusiasm and good kind of positive speech. I've got here confidence. For me, confidence is not necessarily one of those ones that is always a deal breaker. In fact, it's not. Sometimes the people that I've liked the most for interviews, especially for sort of normal kind of entry level jobs, are people actually that have been a bit nervous, because it just shows me that they care and that they really want to get the job. And I think it's completely normal. It might be different in the future, guys, when you guys are becoming CEOs of Google or Facebook or something like that, and you have to have a kind of bulletproof confidence. But certainly for your first jobs and stuff, it's really normal to have nerves. So if you are nervous, don't worry, it can be quite an endearing thing, and just make sure that you're making up for it with smiling, good positive body language, all that sort of stuff as well. Be on time. That's a biggie. Yeah, you want to really try and be on time. If I've got an interview and it's in person or even virtually, I would be there in plenty of time. And if it was in person, I would try and get there an hour before, and I would make sure I know where I'm going, and then I would go and have a coffee, or I would go for a walk, and then 10 minutes before my interview, I'd go in for the interview. Same virtually. You want to make sure everything's working on Teams and stuff like that, so don't leave it to the last minute. But if it's virtual, you maybe don't want to be on half an hour before, but 10 minutes before, just make sure everything's working for you. So yeah, being on time is really, really important. And little thing for you here, you never get a second chance to make a great first impression. So that's really, really important. All right, we communicate in three ways, guys, in whatever we do, and including interviews. What do you think are those three ways?
So I would say maybe visually, first of all.
Okay, visually, right?
Anything on the chat from anybody? By voice.
By the voice, yeah. So that's come through as well. Cool. Really appreciate all the chatter comments, guys. That's great. So yeah, what we would say is body language is actually the most important. Then it's voice and tone, and then it's words. So it's less about what we say, and it's much more about the kind of body language and voice and tone, and in particular body language. So remember, if you're having an interview and maybe you're nervous or something like that, just have a think about, okay, how's my body language? Is my posture good? Am I smiling? Am I making good eye contact? Because that's the really important stuff. And I always say as a presenter that I don't always think I'm the most articulate presenter. Sometimes I get a little bit twisted in different things that I'm saying, and mumble or even stutter. But I always tell myself, as long as I've got a good posture, good body language, that in general the audience are going to be cool with that. And hopefully you guys have found that today as well. So just remember, it's about the body language as much as anything else. So it's what we don't say that counts. So keep that in your mind when you're going for interviews. Okay, dress for success. So if you guys were going in for an interview with Citizen M, would you dress as the gentleman on the left or the person on the right? How would you dress, Jordan?
I'd probably go for the more formal approach.
All right, cool. Why would that be?
If it's good, someone that you're not really, I wasn't too sure about the business as a whole, whether they were maybe more casual or more formal, I'd probably always more go for the formal option as just a safe option.
Yeah, no, you must know these slides well, but yeah, if that's great advice, Jordan. I would always say if you're unsure, go formal because you won't get marked down for being overdressed. But if you're underdressed, then you might get marked down, and that might count against you in those critical first 3 minutes. If I was going to Citizen M, knowing what I know about them because I've been into Citizen M and I've met Dommy in person, all that stuff, I would probably go more as the person on the right because they're a little bit more smart casual. But again, if I went in a suit, they wouldn't hold that against me. And if I was going, for example, for Celtic Manor, I would definitely go like the person on the left-hand side in the suit because they're much more formal. It's a much more conservative type of place. So you want to try match to the environment as much as possible. But as Jordan says, really the main rule is if you're unsure, go as formal as possible, which is not always easy when you're younger and you might not have suits and things like that. But if you can get a nice pair of trousers and a shirt, something like that, even from Primark, then yeah, you'll do absolutely fine. So what will you be asked at the interview? Well, there's not an endless list of questions, but what you can do is Google typical questions. If you're going for a kitchen role, you can Google typical questions to be asked about a kitchen interview. For example, have a look at the job advert, prepare the basics, and this will increase your chances and your confidence. I'm somebody that gets nervous about things, so presentations, interviews, so I always like to be prepared because then it just increases my confidence. If I go into a presentation or an interview and I'm not prepared, that's where I can really come unstuck. So some people are very lucky and they can just kind of get away with things. But if you're not one of those people, then yeah, definitely practice the basics. So what are the basics? So, well, it goes back to the body language. So it's about being pleasant, it's about being polite, it's about smiling, making eye contact with the interviewer, being positive, being passionate. So again, maybe I'm not the most articulate presenter for you guys, but I hope you can see that I'm passionate. Listen to each question. Don't worry about the nerves. Remember, that can actually be a nice thing because it shows an employer that you really care. Show why you want the job. Show why you want to work for that company. Ask questions. Check on the next stage and remember to thank them for their time as well. Okay, after interview, a couple of tips. If you've really enjoyed it, because again, remember, it's about you. What you don't want to do is drop an email saying you really enjoyed it if you didn't. But if you went into Citizen M, you had an interview, you absolutely loved it, you really want the job, drop them an email if you've got their email address to say thanks, that you're looking forward to hearing from them because it's super professional and not everyone does it. And even if you're unsuccessful, but you'd love to work there, then drop them an email saying thanks and ask to be kept in mind for future vacancies. When I was in HR working in hotels, this rarely happened. Every time it did happen, we always kept that person on file and we invited them back for an interview or a job in the future because I just thought it was really, really classy and says a lot about the person as well. The fact of life, guys, is you will go for interviews and not get jobs, and that just happens sometimes. So always kind of be classy about that as well, and that can really work out for you. Okay, so difficult to give you guys lots of questions to practice, but some of the questions that we wanted to think about, and we'll bring this slide up at the end as well, is typical questions that you might get asked is tell me about yourself. Okay, biggies are always what do you know about the company? So if you go in for an interview with Celtic Manor or Citizen M, Dominica will ask you, or Tracy will ask you, what do you know about the company? So you want to be able to list between 3 and 5 things that you know about the company, maybe when it started, how many hotels they've got, for example. Also, why would you like to work for this company? So we covered that already with Citizen M. So it might be because I'm really passionate about art and traveling and hospitality. I really like modern places. Questions about you and why do you want to work in this role? So have a think about, why would you want to work in a customer service role? Because I'm a people person, because I love being around people, that type of thing. What can you bring to this role? So have a think about if you've got experience, great. But if you don't, you can talk about your skills, your education, your personality, your passion. What are your strengths? So again, make them relatable to the job. So if you're going for a finance job, you can tell them that, and hopefully you are, that you're analytical, that you're neat, that you've got good attention to detail. What are your weaknesses? So have a think about kind of what weaknesses you have and how you can improve on them. And I'm going to give you some examples of that in a second, because it can be a tough question, but normally at an interview, you'll be asked, what are you good at and what are you not so good at? Talk me through your previous experience, last 5 years. And if you don't have experience, you might often get asked, right, you don't have experience in customer service, so how are you going to get around that? So these are the type of questions that you might be asked. And in terms of weaknesses, couple of examples here. So One of them could be that you're a perfectionist. So I get frustrated if things don't go smoothly, as I'm a perfectionist. My greatest weakness is that I get frustrated when things don't go as well as they should. To avoid this, I've started being more proactive and paying attention to how I'm reacting if things aren't going as planned, and making sure I remain positive and motivational, and accepting that things go wrong. It's how we react that matters. I'm still a work in progress, but I feel I've really improved in this area. So great answer, because you're being honest about a weakness, but you're also telling the employer, okay, but this is what I'm doing to change it, and I believe that I've got a little bit stronger as well. Okay, great example for probably all of you guys is my greatest weakness is I lack experience of working in, for example, a kitchen or a restaurant or customer service. But what I lack in experience, I make up for in passion, as I love cooking or I love talking to people if you're going for a customer service job, and I really want to have a career in this area. I'm also a quick learner, as we've touched on that before. I do have experience of cooking for large family gatherings, so maybe you do bits of cooking or having to be organised and prepared to manage this. I do have experience dealing with people when I've had to look after new pupils during secondary school. So again, an example of, okay, you don't have customer service experience in a work sense, but maybe you've done something at school. So there's always things that you can bring in as well. Jordan, what would you say? What do you normally answer for this one for weakness? And I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit.
I don't know. I had a sixth sense there that you were going to ask me this. But I think definitely one I would have said is my organizational skills. If I'm in a very busy environment with lots of different things to look after, it probably is still a little weakness of mine. But the way I've worked towards improving that is by utilizing systems that are available to me to help me organize myself, like Outlook calendars or my personal calendar, to make sure I know when things need to get done by. And I think that's really helped me improve that.
Great answer. Fantastic. Cool. Okay, guys, the big question, because we've said it, you know, it is a lot about the money, and it often is. But so at the end of an interview, one thing I can say that 99% of the time that will happen is the employer will then say to you, have you got any questions that you want to ask? Now, I want to ask you guys, can you ask them about the money? Let me know what you think, a yes or no. Can you ask about the money?
We've got a no and another no.
Okay. Is anyone asking about the money?
So 4 no's so far.
Or no so far? Okay, so what I would say to this,
One
guys,
yes. Sorry.
one yes. Okay, great. What I would say to about asking this question is, yes, you can ask about the money, or you can ask about, for example, you know, do I have to work weekends? Do I have to work night shifts? These type of things. But what I would say to you is just be careful. If you've applied for a job and on the advert it says about the money, or it says about the shifts, then you kind of know what they are, so you don't need to ask the question. Now, often on a job advert, it won't have all of that information. So you can definitely ask about, you know, how, you know, I just want to ask a question to wonder what the pay, what the salary is for the position, or I was just wondering how the shift pattern works, or if it includes weekend work. It's no problem to ask that, but never ask it as your first question, because if you ask it as your first question, you know, what do I get paid, or do I have to work the weekends, the employer is immediately going to think that is your priority, and it might well be, but you want them to know that you're also interested in other things as well. So you can ask it, but I would always try to ask at least one, if not two questions that aren't to do with that stuff, and then you can move on to those questions afterwards. So to give you some examples of good concluding questions, you could say to someone like Dominica from Citizen M, you could say, can you describe the culture of the company? And if she hasn't already, what is it that you enjoy about working here? So if they're nice and friendly, you know, you can get a little bit personal with them. How did you get to your position? And they'll sit back and they'll be like, oh, let me tell you a little bit about that. What do you enjoy about your job? You can ask them about, are there good learning and development opportunities? Do you have any apprenticeship opportunities if you're interested in that type of thing? And what do you expect from a team member in this position? What's a typical day like in the department? Where do you see your company in 5 years? So there's lots of questions you can ask. And again, you can put it into Google, but that's some good examples. And then you can ask as a sort of final question, you know, what are the hours for the job? And what's the salary for the job? And, you know, what are the next steps? When will I hear back from you guys? Is always a nice question to ask as well. So, yeah. Right, we're getting there, guys. So remember the 5 Ps. So they are: proper first impression counts, preparation, always research the company. It's normally one of the questions that you'll get asked. What do you know about this company? Why do you want to work for this company? So you want to answer that well. Be organised as well, guys. So always bring your proof of right to work in the UK. So you can bring a passport, you can bring a birth certificate and a driving licence. And again, you can research it online, but there's different things that you can bring. Personality, be yourself. The employer wants to get to know you. So it's all about that good, positive body language. And remember on the poor timekeeping, that's an absolute no-no. If you are going to be late, just try to give them a call or send them an email to let them know. I mean, particularly in London, it can happen, or it can happen anywhere, I guess. But yeah, you want to let them know that you're going to be arriving late. And if you do that, then normally it's not such a big problem as well. Some websites here, guys, if you're interested in hospitality, leisure and tourism. Now, what we'll do is we'll share these slides with your teachers so that you guys can go onto these websites, or you can take a quick picture now if you want. But ultimately, probably a bigger thing to remember is, if you want us to kind of help you with all this stuff, and we've got great networks, just fill out your career scope registration, and then what we'll do is we'll get in touch with you and we'll help you with all this stuff anyway, CVs, interviews, and finding jobs, and also maybe doing some extra training and stuff if you're interested in that as well. And then, last kind of message from me is, I would say, guys, look for work. You might already be doing it. It's amazing for so many things, as we discussed. Do it for the summer. It's great for your life experience. It will transform your confidence. It's brilliant for your CV. And of course, then you can treat yourself and you'll feel a real pride in that. And even more so when I remember looking after my mum for the first time, taking her for a meal, really, really cool stuff to be able to pay for it for once. So yeah, there's lots of kind of cool things you can do once you start working. All right. So if you guys, have a bit of time kind of at the end of your class, or, any time in the future, one of the things that you can do is, a small kind of mock interview exercise. So what I would say in a situation like that is, imagine that you've applied for a part-time role to work in customer service at Nando's, because we all know Nando's, and they're one of our partners as well. Just imagine it's a weekend role. You can pair up with somebody else and you can take it in turns to ask each other basic interview questions. So for example, what you good at, what you're not good at, why do you want to work at Nando's, what do you know about Nando's, and then give feedback to each other on how you did with the mock interview. Remember, it might be the first time for you both to do an interview, so keep the feedback as positive and helpful as possible, with a little bit of constructive feedback as well if you want to. And if anyone wants to take a quick kind of screenshot, there's some mock interview questions for you there. And what I'll do is I'll come back to that slide in a second in case anyone does want to take a screenshot or write some of the questions down. But yeah, over to you guys for any questions at all or any thoughts. Anything coming through in the chat, Jordan? No. Cool. Great, guys. Listen, I know a lot of you guys have been through all 4 workshops today, so it's been an absolute pleasure. I was super looking forward to today. It's so nice to work with schools and young people, and we'd love you guys to come and work in hospitality, leisure and tourism. As we said before, we'd like to help you guys as well if you want that. But it's been a real pleasure today, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Jordan, I think you were going to put our email details on there as well in case you want to get in touch with us individually. But otherwise, it's just about getting in touch if you want, guys. And thanks for your time, and we hope you have a great summer. And if you do want to practice some mock interview questions, then you can take some of those down now. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to you guys very soon.
Yeah, from me as well. Thanks, Tony, for doing all the speaking today. I know you've been doing a lot of work. But I know a few of you have said you're interested in sort of summer jobs or part-time jobs. So if you haven't already, I know a lot of you have signed up already to Career Scope, but get your details up there so that we can get back in contact with you and help you out with all of that. Yeah.
And Jordan, you know what? You were so kind to say thanks to me, but massive thank you to you as well. Really enjoyed doing the sessions with you today. So thank you very much.